How's it going, everybody? Welcome into the Skyline Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Jack Hartman, joined as always by my good friend, my co-host on the West Coast, Nick Normand. Nick, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, doing well. I got my Steelers glass from a water I'm drinking. Got my Italians shirt. I myself am Italian. I have never been to Pittsburgh though, so need to get there, wear this, rep it. I'm ready to talk some Steelers football. We're less than 2 weeks away from the Steelers playing. We're like 10 days away from the season opener with Eagles and Dallas, which I'm super stoked about too. I'm hoping Micah Parsons is signed and good to go by then because I don't want that to be a blowout. And so I'm ready for some football. I'm here for it. Super stoked to be with you, Jack. How are you doing today, man?
Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I am more invested in what's happening this weekend in the college football world. Some really big games. Texas, Ohio State. That unfortunately is a noon kickoff instead of the nightcap, which just blows. Fox college football is just so bad and not as good compared to the ESPN product, and they always get these big games that happen at noon every year, and it stinks. But LSU Clemson Saturday night, that'll be an awesome game. South Carolina Virginia Tech will be interesting, and of course the third of those ACC SEC games, Syracuse Tennessee at noon. So obviously have significant vesting interest in that. But yeah, no, football is here, man. It is starting to get not cold, but just a little bit cooler. Just a little bit cooler here in Pennsylvania. At night it's getting down into like the 50s, and just you're just starting to get that little bit of a sense of that fall feeling, which is awesome. When it comes to Micah Parsons, I want him to remain unsigned because of after the recent news of Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals agreeing to a deal today. It means that the Lions need to go get Micah Parsons. So, but anyway, that's that. But today we are going to be going through and discussing our predictions for the division winners. We've already, Nick and I sort of talked. We feel like we're probably going to have pretty similar picks for things. So we're going to try to keep things brief because if we were to really go at this, it could be 2.5 hours of us, going division by division. So we're going to try to keep things brief, but also there will be room for a little bit of discourse. But yeah, so Nick, why don't you just kick us off here with the NFC East? Very interesting one to kick us off with. Has not had a repeat winner in I don't even know how long.
I believe it's over 20 years now since the 03-04 Eagles. I think the T.O. Donovan McNabb Eagles, I think.
Yeah.
And so the Eagles are the reigning champion of the NFC and the NFC East, and they're the Super Bowl champions, at least reigning for now. So it's going to take something to knock them off that pedestal. I have them staying on top of that pedestal though for this year. I did think about Washington. I did think about Dallas. I didn't think about New York because New York is New York, and trusting in the four-headed monster of Tommy DeVito and Jackson Dart and Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson.
DeVito's gone.
Oh, did DeVito get cut today?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know DeVito got cut. Tommy Cutlets. What a shame. Anyway, the three-headed monster then of Winston, Wilson, and Dart. Still going to be a fun team to watch, I think, but not one that's going to be vying for a playoff spot or the NFC Championship, I would say. I really thought about Washington here. I just don't think the schedules line up to where Washington has that big of an advantage. I was looking at Philadelphia's schedule, and it's just brutal. Last year, they had a very easy schedule. This year, the two divisions that they're aligned with for every team in the NFC East to be playing this year are the NFC North, which is just a bloodbath of a division with the Lions, the Vikings, the Bears, the Packers. All of those teams can play. All of those teams are going to be at least a pain in the butt, if not a favorite against you. And they pull the AFC West, which is also a brutal division where you got the Raiders, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. And all of those teams in that division seem reasonably improved compared to last year. And they were a really good division last year. Mm-hmm. And so just looking at that, that's 8 games on every single one of these NFC East team schedules. That's going to be a really difficult game. And when you look at the rest of the ancillary games that each of these teams are playing, I just don't think the gap was made up for Washington. I think the Eagles, they lost their offensive coordinator in blanking on his name, who was in Dallas. Not Steichen, he was
Moore.
Kellen Moore, who's now on the Saints as the head coach. I don't think the loss of him at offensive coordinator is going to be that big of a difference. And I think that the major issue could maybe be if they get pass happy and want to be throwing it to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith too much rather than running the ball more. Or if Saquon Barkley was injured, I think that could be an issue. But I think the talent gap's so big. I think they're just really well run. I just really trust this team to be able to grind out wins in a way that I don't think Washington will. And I think there's a factor with Washington of Jaden Daniels getting figured out a little bit more. I don't think he'll get figured out 100%, but I think he just snuck up on a lot of teams. And the dual threat ability of those young quarterbacks kind of gets lessened after a year. Where Lamar Jackson, I remember his first year starting, not the entire year, but 2018 when he stepped in for Joe Flacco when Flacco got benched or injured. I don't remember if he got hurt.
I think he got hurt.
Yeah. Where he went on a crazy streak. He was winning a bunch of games. And then they played the Chargers for a second time, Jackson did, in the playoffs in the wild card. And he really, really struggled because they played him again, and they kind of figured out the way they wanted to play Lamar. And I just think that Jaden Daniels, the more tape you get on him, you're going to be more comfortable playing against him because teams just weren't comfortable playing against him. He just became such an efficient offense running and passing that it was just hard to stop. I don't think it's going to be like figure him out and he's going to have a game where it's like 2 interceptions and 100 yards and like a terrible game on the regular being figured out. But I don't think their offense is going to be like crazy third down completion percentage, insane touchdown conversion percentages and red zone stuff. I think it'll still be very good, but I don't think you're going to see the shocking numbers of one of the most efficient offenses ever like last year with Washington. Because of that, I still have the Eagles sticking in the first spot in this division. I really like Washington. I like Dallas. I think Dallas is going to put up a bunch of offensive yards through the air, but I just don't trust all 3 phases of their game nor their coaching really in this spot. So I'm going Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are the very safe pick. The thing, though, that, I think we all thought, not last year, but 2 seasons ago, well, it's the Eagles' division to lose again, and they did end up losing it, and Dallas won it because of just a few weird, fluky things that just tend to happen in the NFL. You mentioned, all 8 of those games that all 4 NFC's teams are going to play. Say Washington wins 3 of them and Philly wins 2 of them, or Washington wins 5 and Philly wins 4, and then it just takes Washington beating Philly 1 time in the regular season, and just like that, they've got a lead there, which is kind of what happened with Dallas when they won it a couple years ago. But I agree that I think Philadelphia is by far the safe pick. The only reason I think you would even question anything else is because it's the NFC East, and it's been over 20 years at this point. So moving on to the AFC East, this one I think is a really, really simple one. I've got the Bills. Nick, I'm sure you've got the Bills. I think what happens with the other 3 teams, and I touched on this a little bit last week when I said that my pop for this year is the New England Patriots. I do think that the Patriots are going to be the number 2 team in this division this year. I like a lot of the progression of the Patriots, especially compared to the regression of Miami, who I think is going to be in last. The Jets, it's when, this is going to sound like such a weird parallel, but anyone who grew up when we got to watch the show Mythbusters when we were kids, and there was an episode where they tested if you could actually get rid of the scent of a dead body in a car. And eventually they were able to do it. And the parallel that I'm drawing here is I do have faith that eventually Aaron Glenn is going to get all the bad smell out of the Jets organization, but it's going to take a while. That said, I already think that they're going to be on a good track. So I do have them slotted in as the third team in that division. But the Bills are the Bills. Josh Allen is the reigning MVP. There's definitely an argument to be made of voter fatigue is the reason that he won instead of Lamar Jackson, similar to, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander winning the MVP instead of Nikola Jokic this year, or when Joel Embiid won it. That happens in the media. But still, it's not like it's not like there was no argument for him. You know what I mean? So he's coming back. I am concerned about them in the edge position. They brought in Joey Bosa to sort of shore that up. I don't think Joey Bosa has been healthy all the way through a season, like ever in his career. And so I'm a little concerned about that. But my concern about that is geared more towards the playoffs, not towards their intra-division games this year, though. It would not surprise me if, say, they split with New England this year. When there's a home, lose theirs when they play them in Foxborough. But yeah, I think the Bills definitely the best team in this division. Have potential to be the best team in the AFC. We'll just sort of have to see how that plays out.
I hear you there, Jack. I have the Bills there as well. It's just a clear gap in this division where Josh Allen covers up so many holes. When you have a superstar QB who's clearly a top 3 to 4 QB in the entire league, if not, I've seen some stuff of him being number 1 this year on a lot of people's rankings, which I think is a little bit spicy, because Mahomes is Mahomes. But Josh Allen's amazing. He covers up so much stuff in the pass game and the run game and the O-line. I just think that the offense that he's able to produce takes that team to another level, even without the high end of talent. Like if they had a Hill and a Waddle on the Bills, I think that team would be insane. That offense would be absurd. I think it's still an amazing offense without them and with Josh Allen. But I just think the defense is so well coached. I think the personnel is just so balanced. And I think Josh Allen, as long as he has competent levels of coaching and talent around him, is a lock to dominate this division far, far into the future. So I'm there with you.
Yep. Cool. Well, let's move on. Nick, tell me what you're thinking about the NFC North going into this year.
Oh, man. You didn't like my thoughts last week on the NFC North. I'm going to be sticking with some of my same thoughts from last week. I will give a little bit more credit. So last week, for people who didn't catch it, I was talking about the Lions and how they're going to be pulling back a lot. I just think that their win total was super inflated last year. Not that it wasn't deserved, but 15 wins is a crazy high number of wins. And it's just really hard to sustain that level of winning. You talk about a team like the 2015 Panthers who had an insane win total like that. They obviously had some other outlier stuff going on with MVP Cam Newton. But nonetheless, I just think that level of dominating everybody else and winning all those close games is really tough to continue doing. And I think that it's really hard with both coordinators being lost. I have made the parallel several times here to the 2023 Eagles, losing both of those coordinators. You brought that team up a little bit earlier about how they lost Steichen, about how they lost Gannon, and how that team didn't win their division, how Dallas won that division. I really could see something like that happening this year in the NFC North, where the Lions could not win the division. This is, though, where I have kind of changed my tune a little bit since last week. I really don't like Nick Sirianni. He is a Super Bowl champion, and I really don't like him as a head coach. Dan Campbell, as a culture setter, as a tough dude who's able to set the tone in that way, I think just separates himself from Sirianni, who's also a tough guy, but not a culture center, not a dude who you want to trust with being the guy as the foundational piece of your organization. And so that's why I don't think you're going to see the Lions fall apart quite as badly as the Eagles. And that's why I have it being a really, really close win, but the Lions winning this division once more. I see them and the Packers in a really close race in this division, though, where I think both teams are going to be looking at around 11 or 12 wins. I think 10, 11, 12 is that ballpark where you're going to see both of them in. And so I think it's going to be really close. But the level of talent and the level of toughness and grittiness and ability to win close games and just the efficient offense, I think, is something that the Packers haven't mastered. And that's a projection thing with this Packers offense, that the Lions, it's not a projection. They've done it. They've been there. They've created amazing offense game after game after game. Even with Laporta injured for a good chunk of last year, they still were producing in the passing game a ton. Even with Montgomery not being fully healthy and Gibbs not being the final form of himself potentially, their run game's still incredible. I am also hesitant about the interior offensive line, but I think the Lions, they just have a little bit more to hold on to, I think, with Dan Campbell being able to keep them there a little bit longer. So I'm going Lions by a hair, by a smidge, but the Packers want it really bad.
Wow. All right. Yeah, your tune has really changed because I know I can pull up an old text conversation between the two of us when you were comparing Dan Campbell to Nick Sirianni in terms of what he brings to the table as the head coach. And so your tune has drastically changed, and it's changed in what I think is a really good way. So yeah, I mean, I am obviously, I cannot be unbiased in this, but I'm also a realist. I do think that the Lions are going to, complete the three-peat as NFC North champion. I think that it's going to be as close as it was last year, just with everyone 3 to 5 games less than where they were at last year. And I can really see a world where the Lions go 11-6 and win the division over a 10-7 Packers and a 10-7 Vikings or a 9-8 Vikings. And what you end up with is every other playoff team in the NFC like terrified, because you'll have, the Lions at the 4 seed probably with that 11-6. You'll have the Packers at like the 6. And so then, whoever the 1 seed is, Philadelphia, Washington, the Rams have a lot of hype right now, though I think we need to pump the brakes on it because we don't know what Matthew Stafford's status is. Whoever it is that's the 1 seed is like, and great, now we have to play against Detroit. And you have a team like the Packers that could, go to Tampa or go to Los Angeles and get an upset there week 1, or week 1 of the playoffs, wild card weekend. And so yeah, I do think that the Lions, I do like their roster stacked up better than all of the other rosters in the NFC North. Combined with, I like the head coaching better. And so yeah, so I'm still taking my Lions, which is no surprise to no one, but I agree, the wins were inflated, though. I think quick side note conversation about that. I was talking to somebody who's a Texans fan, and he said, "Oh, well, the Lions, like their wins were inflated because they played against the AFC South." Yes, however, they hung 50 on the Jaguars and they hung 50 on the Titans and beat both of them by 38 plus points. So, it's not like they got wins against bad teams by a small margin, but that's neither here nor there. So I agree. Very, very tight, close division, and Detroit is going to squeak it out. Moving on to the division of your favorite team, AFC North. Coming into this year, the Ravens have sort of been running the show, at least in division titles. Not necessarily they're blowing everybody else out of the water, but they've won the division. I think we're looking at what, 3 years in a row? Is it 3 years ago? Four?
Two, because
Two?
Burrow and the Bengals had 21 and 22. Lamar was
That's
injured
right.
partially. Then
That's right.
23, 24 was Ravens.
Yep. Yeah. So they're coming in with it the last 2 years. If you didn't catch last week's episode, I am not high on the Bengals. It's unfortunate. I'm a little higher on them now that they got Trey Hendrickson back. But I do still feel that there just has to be some sort of falling back to the mean for Burrow and Chase. And the thing that was holding up a lot of the deal for Hendrickson is how old he is. And Father Time does always catch up. I'm not going to go on Max Kellerman and say that he's about to hit a plateau. But that I just think if you're leaning on the three of them and what they can do, the best that they have basically we've seen of them, they put forward last year, and that was not enough. I don't see any way that the rest of this team has gotten better. So I'm not high on the Bengals. The Browns are the Browns, famously said by Chase Claypool, but after he had gotten steamrolled by Cleveland in the playoffs. So a little bit different. But still, the Browns they're figuring things out. I still really like Kevin Stefanski, but they don't have a quarterback. Joe Flacco is their opening day starter. It wouldn't surprise me if Shedeur Sanders never sees the field this year because right now there's 3 guys ahead of him on the depth chart. And even though everyone wants to act like, people are like the Browns are sabotaging Shedeur Sanders, what they're doing is they're treating him like a 5th round pick, which is what he was. Whether everyone thinks he should have been, doesn't matter. In the end, he was a 5th round pick and he's getting 5th round pick treatment. But that does leave Baltimore and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I really don't know what to think about Pittsburgh this year. I really, really don't. There have been a lot of good. There's a lot of good that has happened. I like getting rid of George Pickens and bringing in DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf is, in my opinion, he is a more experienced, better production George Pickens. And while he's crazy in his own way, he's not the type of crazy that Pittsburgh wide receivers normally are, which is absolute locker room cancer. So I like that addition for them. Good. It's good that they got TJ Watt, his contract. What I'm concerned about is Minka Fitzpatrick no longer being on the team. I am also a little concerned about the status of, Cam Hayward, and how prepared he's going to be for the season. I know I don't remember hearing or knowing the most recent, but I know there was a little bit of some hold out / hold in with him related to a contract. So we'll see. I do think that this is going to sound like an oxymoron. I think that Aaron Rodgers gives them a better chance than they had at quarterback last year, but I still have like little to no faith in Aaron Rodgers. So because it's Mike Tomlin, because TJ Watt is there, because because you have a quarterback that isn't Duck Hodges, I think Pittsburgh will go 10-7 or 11-6. Because they were able to go 9-8 with Duck Hodges. So, but I really think that this is Baltimore's division to lose. So,
I agree with you there. It seems like Baltimore's just been able to put together a better team than everybody else in this division, and they have the superstar quarterback. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're a good team. They have good talent. They have a really good defense. But they don't have the superstar quarterback. If the Steelers had Lamar Jackson, this would be a different looking division, but they don't. Burrow and the Bengals, if they had the Ravens roster instead of the Bengals roster around Burrow, this would be a different conversation. The Ravens are the only ones with the really good overall roster and the superstar quarterback. That team, unless Lamar Jackson gets injured, should win the division. That's been the question throughout Lamar's career. He's been able to answer some of those questions, not getting injured the last couple of years. The Ravens, though, are the clear choice here. Also breaking, by the way, there have been some trades going down. Kenny Pickett was traded to the Raiders just now from the Browns.
Oh.
Shedeur is not fourth on the depth chart anymore. He's third on the depth chart.
Wow.
Which is something.
And shout out to Mike Tannenbaum because he mentioned that today in Get Up, and 99.5% of the stuff he says there is absolutely ridiculous. But he mentioned that the Raiders might go calling for Kenny Pickett. So also very Raiders to go trade for a quarterback that literally is hurt and hasn't played at all in the preseason and be like, that's our backup.
And they traded a 5th round pick for him. That's a little
nuts.
bit. That's not great. That's not great, Raiders.
Yeah,
but the move that I really hated was when the freaking Saints traded for that receiver a week or two ago from the Broncos. Did you see that? It was just a disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
I forget what the name of the dang receiver is, but he was a freaking 7th round pick a year ago, and then the Broncos get rid of him for a 4th from the Saints, who should be tanking. So dumb.
Well, that's like the Patriots trading Joe Milton for like a 4th round pick or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway.
Milton's super talented as far as arm talent, but
here's
still the fun stands.
Here's what I think. Joe Milton side note. I think if I had to pick between Joe Milton and Anthony Richardson to bring in as my reclamation project quarterback, management has told me you have 3 years and you have one of these guys. I'm picking Joe Milton.
I think the other good thing about Joe Milton is that he's not going to get the hype from the fan base of being like, we need to start him this moment. I think Anthony Richardson still, if like the Steelers traded for him, that the fans will be like, we need him to start right now. And Milton's less of a celebrity like that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Which does help. It's easier to hold off on him. But I agree with you there. Milton, both of them are talented, but Milton's also not injury prone, which is a big thing. Richardson's mad injury prone when he plays, man.
Well, and Milton has way more experience. Like people remember him at Tennessee. They forget he started the whole season at Michigan before transferring to the Vols, getting to learn behind Hendon Hooker. So anyway,
sadly,
we gotta move on to the NFC South. Nick, what are your thoughts on the NFC South?
So last week you and I talked. You're very high on the Bucs. I'm a little bit cooler, but still really like the Bucs. Was looking at their schedule, seeing how it looked to me. It looked reasonably easy. I was like, wow, the schedule is pretty easy. Look at the Falcons. If the Bucs schedule is easy, the Falcons should be even easier. Falcons schedule, not really that much easier. And I'm like, okay, Falcons, you're the only one contending in this division with the Bucs, I feel like, and your schedule's not helping you here a lot. And so I'm just going to go with the Bucs here. I think their first-round pick in Emeka Egbuka is a really good player who's shown out, really talented. I think he'll slot in amazing as a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 when either Evans retires or Godwin falls off a cliff or whatever happens there. But I think their receiving talent there is actually incredibly underrated overall. I think they go like 6 deep at really good receivers there. I think they're amazing as far as like just down the roster at receiver there. I'm going to go Tampa Bay. I think they could inflate their win total from last year where they've been improving 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins. I think you could see 11, maybe even 12 wins this year. Even with an improved Panthers team and an improved Falcons team, I think Tampa Bay, this could be the year that their offense becomes really high end, like a top 5 offense here. I think the O-line's really good. I really like Bucky Irving and the running backs. I really love the pass catchers. I just think this offense, there's no reason that Baker Mayfield shouldn't be able to pilot it to a top 5 offense here. So I'm going to go Bucs with a bullet right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Buccaneers, if you want to hear more about what I think about Tampa, go back and listen to last week's episode if you didn't catch it. But yeah, no, they look really good. Interesting note that I have about the division. I think by far, New Orleans is the worst team in this division. That's not very interesting, but I would not be surprised if Carolina is right around the middle of the league in record this next year. It's sort of a put up or shut up year for Bryce Young. When they drafted him, they had the number 9 pick and traded up for number 1. After his rookie year, they were in number 1 position, but obviously it belonged to Chicago. After last year, they were drafting around 9. So we'll see, or I think it was 8 maybe when they took Tet McMillan. And so I think this is okay. Is Bryce Young the answer, or next year in a heavy quarterback draft? Are they looking to replace him? But I think I really liked what I saw out of Bryce Young towards the end of last year. I mean, they almost beat Philadelphia.
In Kansas City, I think.
If it weren't for a drop in the Philadelphia game by the guy who eats raccoon,
Leggett.
Yeah. If it weren't for a drop by him, Bryce Young beats Philadelphia. So I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch.
Also, mini side take here. I think that the Saints probably are the worst team in the entire league and are going to be fighting for the number 1 pick pretty clearly. I think they're going to really want Arch to come out of college and want to get Arch after they had Archie 50 years ago. I think that's what they're in line for. They're not in line to win any more than 5 games, I think, this year.
Yeah. And it would not surprise me if there is a team, say, like Carolina, like the Jets, maybe if the Justin Fields experience doesn't work, or some other team that looks to trade for Tyler Shuck after next year. Well, if New Orleans is sitting there at the number 1 overall pick, whether Arch comes out or not, most of they would have the top of whatever they want on their quarterback rankings, and it's probably better than Tyler Shuck. So we'll see about that. But anyway,
Tennessee needs to trade Will Levis. I need more Will Levis in my life. This is my second round pick. And then you get the number 1 pick. You got to trade Levis. And then did you see the photo of his dislocated, busted collarbone?
No.
Why he went on IR? There's a picture of him flexing in the mirror where his shoulder's all the way in his chest. It looks weird. I'll send it to you later. But I want Will Levis. I think he could be the Tyler Shuck similar type player.
All right. Hey, moving on to the AFC South. This is a very interesting division going into this year. I think there's a lot of stuff that could happen. Last year, Houston won it, but they only went 10-7. Indianapolis came in second to 8-9. Then you had Jacksonville and Tennessee with really, really bad seasons. Both of them had picks in the top 5 of the draft last year. That said, though, I think Tennessee got drastically better. I think that Jacksonville got drastically better. And I think that Houston and Indianapolis, Houston definitely, and Indianapolis a little bit, got worse. And I think that there is a world where the AFC South this year is the NFC South of a few years ago, where the division winner went 8-9. It was Tampa Bay. They went 8-9. They had a losing record and were hosting a playoff game. It was very weird, very not what you would expect. But it's what happened. And I think we are in a spot where we might see that out of the AFC South this year. I think this division is going to be a dogfight, but not one of the dogfights that it's pretty because everybody's good, but a dogfight because everybody is just meh. This is going to be a classic battle of mid. Because I do think that, like I said, I think Tennessee got significantly better because they had a really good draft. They got an actual quarterback, but you know what? If they go 5 wins better this year, they are still only at 8 wins on the year, right? If Jacksonville goes 5 wins better, that's still only 9 wins, right? I definitely think the Texans are going to fall back a little bit again, unfortunately. It's crazy how at this time last year we were praising the Texans for like CJ Stroud put them ahead of schedule, and they're like, fine, we'll be ahead of schedule and we'll go all in. But their all in looked really bad, and they've already given up on it. It feels like trading a lot of assets. Joe Mixon, we know nothing about whether he's on the pup list or not yet. And if he is, then that means it's at least 4 games. Could be more, we'll see. They brought in Nick Chubb, who you and I both we love Nick Chubb. We are big Nick Chubb fans here. But he is not the same that he was, even though somehow he goes through these devastating knee injuries and just comes back as if it's like, yeah, okay, so I had to take a year off, but it's no big deal. But still, like, it's not the same, obviously. So I don't know that I trust Houston to run away with this. Like, it feels like maybe you would think most people would, without really thinking about it, would just be like, oh yeah, well, it's Houston's division. And it's like, well, hold on a minute, So I do think I'm going to go with Houston. But I think this is Houston wins it going like 9-8, and they win it by beating a division opponent, week 18, to pull it off, over them, who's like, they both go in at 8-8, and it's like a way worse version of what we saw the last game of the season last year between Detroit and Minnesota. But that's what I've got. What are your thoughts?
I get you with Houston. I agree with you. This is a battle of mid here. I'm a little bit higher on Jacksonville. Like, yeah, even if they win 5 more games, they'll still be only 9 wins, and that is a winning record. I just think that Jacksonville probably has the path to be able to get there more than the Colts and Titans do. Where I really like Cam Ward. Cam Ward's shown that he's able to sling it. He's able to make reads. He's able to put the ball where he wants it. His arm strength, velocity, sidearm ability is really impressive. I've really liked what Cam Ward has looked like. But I just don't think he has the support system around him right now to be able to make that leap into playoffs immediately, or winning a playoff game per se, like a CJ Stroud or a Jordan Love did. Colts, I just think their quarterback position just holds them back so much in that spot. I think they're a legitimate quarterback away team, where if you dropped Matt Stafford on that team, who there were trade rumors about, that Colts team with Matt Stafford, that team could be like 11 or 12 wins if you got last year's Matt Stafford on this Colts team. I really like their weapons. I really like their O-line, and their defense is pretty good too. And so I really think that the quarterback position is the main drawback for them. That being said, I think the Jaguars just have a pretty solid blend of improved areas all around the roster, where I think this offense could be genuinely good. I think that the Travis Hunter addition, year 2 BTJ, an upgraded interior offensive line, Trevor Lawrence with hopefully a good offensive coach as opposed to some not great coaching he's received, especially his rookie year. I just feel like this offense could be good and this defense could be solid, and that could get them to like 9 wins, and maybe they could sneak it out. I definitely think they go in the mid bucket. But if I'm picking a team that's not the Texans, I think I'd go with Jacksonville here.
Fair enough. All right, Nick, talk to us about the NFC West.
NFC West, I just think that the 49ers schedule is so much easier than everybody else's in terms of the big important games there. And I think a healthy Christian McCaffrey coming back. The rest of their running backs aren't healthy. McCaffrey is healthy, which is a big red flag to me, because if McCaffrey's the only healthy one, he could get injured really quickly. Then you have no one. But they traded for Brian Robinson Jr. I was blanking on his last name. But they just traded for him, traded a 6th-round pick to get him. That makes me very sad, because his trade value in fantasy just went down a lot in my dynasty league, and I missed out on getting some good value for him. But I think that he's a really good receiving back, and that he'd be able to fit in the Shanahan scheme pretty well. That being said, I think that Brock Purdy is shown to be a good quarterback. I think that the offensive line should be solid to good. I think the running game should be solid to good. I think that if you get Kittle still being the amazing Kittle that he has been, that's going to be great. You're going to have the best tight end, or not best, but top 3 tight end in the league, since Bowers was incredible last year. And also blanking on the kid in Arizona, but he was really amazing as well last year. What's his name? McBride. Trey McBride. He also is very, very good, of course. But I think Kittle as a blocking tight end and a receiving tight end adds a little bit better value because of the run game stuff he does compared to the other dudes. That being said, I just hang it on the schedule, the offense, McCaffrey being healthy, and the defense getting back to at least a solid level with Saleh returning as the defensive coordinator. I just think that this team, when healthy, should be pretty darn good, especially if the receivers can get healthy here to start the season. So I'm going to go there, especially with Stafford being injured. If Stafford misses time, this Rams team could fall off a good bit. Last year, Puka got hurt and Kupp was hurt, and their offense was woe-begotten for a little while. But if Stafford gets hurt, you are not depending on Stetson Bennett or Jimmy Garoppolo to pilot this ship. They're not talented enough for that to be able to not miss a step there. So I'd be very worried about that. That being said, those seem like they're the 2 teams to me that I'd put my money on. Just the coaching's at another level with those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think all of this just comes down to how healthy or unhealthy is Matt Stafford. Like, really, I think that's what it is. I think if he's healthy, no issues. It seems like, just everything about this whole back thing, all of it was just precautionary. He comes in week 1 and looks like he picks up right where he left off. I like this Rams team. I am still concerned about the losses on the defensive side of the ball for San Francisco. Yes, coaching wise, it's like, okay, well, this is good. But at the same time, it's like, how helpful is having the same coach if 75% of your starters on the defense have turned over, which I know it's, yes, that's important that they have the same coach, but still you understand what I'm saying. But I definitely think it comes down to those 2. I think both the other teams, I mean, Sam Darnold hasn't even taken a snap for Seattle, but I view both of those teams in quarterback purgatory. The problem that the NFL is facing right now is you either have one of the best in your conference, you have a top 4 quarterback in your conference, or you don't. You have a guy that's in like the next 6 in your conference, 6 to 8. And depending on where he falls there, you sort of go like, well, yeah, it could definitely get better, but also, it could get worse. So we got to pay him. And that's where the Cardinals have been, it feels like, with Kyler Murray his entire career. I feel like that's where Seattle is right now with Sam Darnold. I personally wish that Seattle would have not brought in Sam Darnold and would have tried to build up a roster that they could draft a rookie like next year in a really good quarterback draft that could slide in really well. But that sort of is what it is. So I think we're on the same page there. Stafford healthy gives the edge to the Rams. It feels like Stafford unhealthy gives the edge to the Niners, but we'll see. I feel like as long as both teams are healthy, it'll be close, right? And that's all we can hope for. So that leaves us with the AFC West. Man, I want to be bold. I really want to be bold, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm going to go with Kansas City. Though, let me put it this way. I'm going to go with Kansas City because as long as Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs for for the entirety of the season, or from week 1, they've won the division. So he hasn't proven anybody wrong yet about that. That said, if there were to be a year for this for the reign to come to an end, I think it's this year. I think the AFC West might actually be the strongest. I think it's certainly the strongest division in the AFC, and
Mhm.
I think it's the NFC North and the NFC East more than North than the East. It's given the NFC North a run for its money for strongest division in the NFL. We talked about the Raiders a little bit last week. You had them as your pop, which and we both agreed like come the back half of the season, no team is going to want to play the Raiders because they're going to be a team that they could just, you know, they're like, hey, we got nothing to play for, but we're gonna, we're in the hunt, but like in the hunt off the screen in the hunt, but we're gonna ruin your season for you. Similar, I feel like very similar to the Lions of a couple years ago before they
ruined the Packers season that year.
exactly
Yeah.
went 8-9 that or 9-8 that year. Just missed out on the playoffs, but ended the Packers season that last week, as well as they won.
Joseph getting the interception to break Aaron Rodgers' heart. His last throw was a Packer. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But they won 7 of their last 9 games that year, and they were a thorn in the side of a lot of teams. So I could see the Raiders being like that. The Broncos looked very good last year under Sean Payton. It was the most competent the Broncos have looked since Peyton Manning's been the quarterback there. I see no reason to believe that they're going to not continue to progress forward with Sean Payton. I think a lot of these second-year quarterback regressions that we see mostly come from teams that don't have offensive-minded head coaches. And so I think Sean Payton is going to help to steer the curve a little bit to keep Bo Nix from sort of falling off in a sophomore slump. I am really high on this Chargers team this year. Like, I really, it's one of those things that every year you see the discourse about, like, everyone gives Justin Herbert so much credit, but he never actually puts it together. And I think what we saw last year was finally he gets competent coaching, and now we're going into year 2 of it. I think that they got him some better weapons. One, Lad McConkey was incredible for them last year, but they brought in some other guys, including my boy Oronde Gadsden, who all of you should go pick up in fantasy because none of you have him, and he isn't rostered in any of your leagues, and you should all go pick him up. Especially in the dynasty, he'll be very cheap, and when it pays off, you will have him for pennies on the dollar for a while. But anyway, regardless, I really like this Chargers team. I can see a world. I can see a world where the Chiefs go like 10-7, 11-6, and they either win it week 18 or they lose it week 18. Just because I, for the first time, I think since Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback of the Chiefs, I think every other team in the division could beat them, right? Like we haven't been able to say that, not that I think they all will. I'm not saying that the Chiefs are going to go 500 or worse in the division this year, but it's not like, oh, well, yeah, they've got 4 guaranteed wins because they're playing the Broncos twice and the Raiders twice, and they'll probably split one with the Chargers, right? Like, it's like, no, all these teams could beat them. And so I'm going Chiefs, but it would not surprise me if this is when the Chiefs' reign comes to an end.
I'm there with you. I think the Chiefs, obviously, they don't seem to have any reason like they're going to fall off, and they just won a ton of games where the number 1 seed in the entire league had the most wins out of anybody, I believe. It was out of everybody. Were they tied with the Lions technically? I think they were tied with the Lions.
They were tied. They both went 15-2.
True. But the Chiefs did bench their dudes or rest their dudes the last week of the season. So hypothetically, they could have put up another win, theoretically. I think that my bigger takeaway, I feel like, with this division to separate my thoughts from yours would be I'm a little bit higher on the Broncos, I think, than the Chargers. Even though I think there's a sizable gap between Herbert and Bo Nix, I just think that the talent, especially the defensive talent's massive on the Broncos. Where if you just look at the dudes they added Dre Greenlaw, they added Tanilo Hufunga, both of them from the Niners, and then they drafted Jahdae Barron. I think if you just look at that secondary straight away, I think this defense could be the best defense in the entire league if everybody's healthy there. I think that Riley Moss played incredible last year. I think PS2, the reigning depoy, still can continue on being incredible. Nick Bonito broke out. Zach Allen's a really great defensive lineman. I just think this defense could be star-studded all over the place, could have like 7 Pro Bowlers on it type of defense. I think it's that good. And I think Sean Payton with Bo Nix in year 2. RJ Harvey, I think he could be a huge addition for them in the run and the pass game. I just view this team as like, why not them to upset the Chiefs like 10, 11 wins if the Chiefs drop to like 11 wins? That the Broncos, I think, would be the team on their tail, not the Chargers. I'm worried about the Rashawn Slater injury, and I'm worried that the Chargers haven't made enough additions defensively to level up. Where last year, statistically, their defense was awesome, but I don't think they necessarily had the players to make you be like, whoa, look at all those studs on that defense. Like if you were on tried to name all the studs on the Chargers defense, it's like Derwin James is still really good. Khalil Mack is still really good, but he's quite old at this point. And then you look around and you're like, okay, who else are you talking about? Asante Samuel Jr. Like it's not like it's stud players all over the place. And so that will be my concern with the Chargers, that they haven't elevated to that next level on defense. And the pass catchers, I don't know if Trey Harris is going to make that big of a difference in the pass game. So I think the Broncos just have leveled up more than the Chargers in this case going into this year. I think the Chiefs, though, their passing game could explode all over again. Or Worthy, I think, going into year 2. Hollywood Brown being healthy. Hopefully Travis Kelce being rejuvenated. Simmons at the offensive tackle spot, I think, could provide some stability in the pass game. I just think the Chiefs, they have this thing rolling, and there's no reason why they're going off the tracks here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, again, as long as Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback of the Chiefs have run the AFC West. So again, we'll have to see. That division is going to be very competitive this year, though it's certainly theirs to lose, as it feels like it is every year. So next week, everybody, awards predictions from both of us for MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year. I don't think there's any that I'm missing.
Assistant Coach of the Year. I don't know if we'll be predicting that. It's sometimes fun to guess assistants, but
Walter Payton Man of the Year. No.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So that'll be next week. When you are listening to us next week, the first game of the NFL season will have happened. How awesome is that? So we're looking forward to kicking off the NFL season. Philadelphia and Dallas. Philadelphia and Dallas. Dallas will be in Philadelphia next week. And so we're excited about that. But hey, an awesome college football slate this weekend. Make sure to tune into that as well. Nick, it's been a joy as always. And everybody, thank you so much for watching and for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. Have a good one.